Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Neurodiversity Gold podcast with me, Jude Morrow. And because it's my podcast, I'll plug whatever the F I want, okay? So the first plug is absolutely nothing to do with neurodiversity whatsoever. It's my new book that's out now. It's called The Ghosts of Riot Past, and it's my first novel. It's my experimental third album. Please read it. I love it to death. And just a word of warning, if you leave a sad Amazon review, I will take it incredibly personally and it will affect the rest of my day. So I just thought I'd put that out there first and foremost. Second one, which would probably be the first kind of plug on this podcast, would be our Patreon. We're still seeking executive producers and supporters for the podcast at patreon.com/ neurodiversity gold podcast. All these episodes are available on our snazzy website, neurodiversitygoldpodcast.com. You can get us wherever you get your podcasts. Unfortunately, not iHeartRadio. And the reason for that is because we're not Americans and we don't live in America and we can't broadcast to them. So we get an email at least every day saying, "Are you an iHeartRadio?" For, I believe, how many episodes have we done of this now? I think 39 episodes. So for the 39th time, no, we're not on iHeartRadio, but we're on every single other one. So my guest today, as I'm sure you can tell by my big, giddy, stupid voice, that I'm very much looking forward speaking to my guest today, who writes kick-ass CVs that get interviews for leaders. She's not just an autistic mother with ADHD, she's an autistic AF mother with ADHD, uh, which is great. A writer, author, CV course creator, ice cream and pole addict. Now, what I've noticed actually with the Neurodiversity Gold podcast and our last aired episode, by the time this one goes out, we spoke about sexology. So this is becoming a very, very cool and trendy, saucy podcast, which I love. And my guest today is Rebecca Pay, and there's a rhyme in that as well.
Hi, Jude. Thanks for having me on. I'm here to bring the sauce.
You know what? Thanks for having me on. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. I mean, you're LinkedIn royalty, nearly 30,000 followers. What's your secret?
Um, oh God, is it close to that? I suppose it's not that far off that, actually, is it? Um, there's no secret apart from consistently posting for about 3 years, I think, and just constantly badgering everyone until they start following me. I think I'm one of those people that I bump into people that, when you bump into people you sort of know through networking or whatever, like locally or whatever. Like, God, you're always on my LinkedIn. Every time I go on LinkedIn, it's you. You're always there. It's your posts. They're always there. And at first, I think, oh God, people are going to get a bit annoyed. But actually, it's just that effect that when you're being sick, like people who especially don't have big networks, they'll see your post quite a lot and they'll feel like, oh God, she's constantly posting. I'm just posting every day. Like, and obviously, your network grows way bigger than those local people quite quickly. And people who don't use it very much, only see those people that are consistently posting. But it works because, anyone who needs a CV, like they're always like, oh, I'm just going to speak to Rebecca. And they know what I do. So although I do ramble on about pole dancing and ice cream, I do also get known for doing CVs, which is obviously the important bit because that makes me the money.
Of course it does. And I mean, anybody that kind of works with us, we always make a point of saying to all of our students, make sure that you have laid out on your LinkedIn profile exactly what you do, who you do it for, and what results people can achieve. So what I'm going to put out to everybody listening to this podcast is if you want a template of how to lay out the perfect LinkedIn profile, then go to Rebecca Pay's LinkedIn page. And even to make it sweeter, excuse the pun, there's an ice cream emoji beside your name.
Of course, yeah.
Would you
Although
would you be a
that's controversial actually, Jude, because you're not
hmm?
really supposed to have emojis next to your name and stuff. And like
Not
officially, LinkedIn can take it down and tell you off. Because I don't know if you know that Leah Turner did it once with a rainbow and it got taken down because someone reported it. So then she actually changed her middle name to Rainbow so that she could officially put it back on.
if they take the ice cream cone down that's in your name. I mean, I would be more than happy to get behind the campaign to bring the cone back. Or would you change your middle name to Ice Cream, Rebecca Ice Cream Pay?
Maybe. I've been looking. I've actually seriously been thinking about changing my middle name for years because I really hate my middle name, which is really sounds awful because obviously your parents take their time choosing these things, but I've always really disliked my middle name, and which also begins with R. And so you can guess what you can try and guess what it is if you want, but I don't want to say.
Can I
But
guess what it is?
yeah, sure, go for it.
And because this is audio, right, there's no video going out. Will you nod your head and to tell
Okay,
me that
sure.
I'm right? Regina? No. Rachel? Oh, how many other names are there with R? I'm getting into
Oh,
boys' names
plenty.
now, like Roy and Richard.
No, it's not a
Um,
boy's name.
and R, Raquel.
No, that would be a good one.
Okay, I've run out of guesses, but you know what? I guarantee ice cream would be a better middle name anyway.
Yeah,
It's
well, I was thinking of
okay.
changing it to Devon actually. Well, I've always had that in my head, and I don't know. It's because I was born in Devon, and I just wanted it in my name. And I might sound completely nuts, but I keep saying I have to wait till my parents die to do it, which sounds really ridiculous and slightly morbid. So I don't know. Maybe I should just do it and not tell them because they're never going to check, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, with your middle name, like you can call yourself whatever you want. I actually did I did a keynote speech event last night, and I had up on the slide, my introductory slide, Jude, happy vibes tomorrow.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Well, I call myself Rebecca Kickass Pay when I sign books because people can buy my book and it's on Amazon. But just plug my book like you plugged yours. But I also you can buy them direct from my website and I'll sign a copy and send it to you. And I always sign it Rebecca Kickass Pay. So maybe I
That's
just need to change it to that.
that's amazing, and like I'm sure you could legally call yourself that. Like, I mean, never mind the bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols
Yeah.
was
Well,
allowed,
yeah.
then then that would be allowed. But your main gig is CV writing. Like, how did you find yourself falling into that path?
Yeah. And I think I did fall into it a little bit. I started off as a proofreader, wanting to do my own business because my daughter was a baby and I didn't want to go back to work. And in fact, I saw a post about this morning that nursery fees were so ridiculous as well. It was like paying to someone, to look after your child when you've got to work at the same time.
Yeah,
It just becomes a bit ridiculous. And I was like, I don't want to do that anyway. I was a oldish mum, mid to late 30s, and I thought, no, I want to be at home with my baby, so I'll find a way of making some money. So I started as a proofreader, and did copywriting and blog writing and stuff like that. I gradually grew the business, but just slowly and sensibly. Like, I wasn't taking time away from the kids, but I was just earning a bit on the side kind of thing. And then about 3 years ago, when I joined LinkedIn, when it started to become like the place to be, I started to grow my business on LinkedIn a little bit. And someone asked me to do a CV. Now, I'd done the odd CV. I was the kind of person that had always done CVs for friends and, just as a mate or mates rates or whatever. And then someone on LinkedIn actually asked me to do one. It was an American guy for the oil and gas industry. And I did it and charged about 60 quid or something like that. And he was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And he got a job straight away as well. Like he was like, this is actually brilliant. Like you're really good at this, and I would have paid you like double that. And I was like, oh shit, okay, that what 120 quid for like doing a CV, which I found really easy. That like this could be a thing. Like so suddenly started talking about it a bit more, got a few more clients, and yeah, gradually the prices have gone up. Obviously, where my expertise has gone up, etc. And I've got the experience now of doing hundreds of the bloody things. I went off it for a while in the lockdown and got someone else to help me doing them because I was doing so many. But I've actually fallen back in love with doing them again. So I tend to work with less clients one on one now.
yeah. Where
And just I have like a course and I have my book and stuff and other ways to access my data and information and knowledge, but one-on-one clients I tend to just take on less and charge more essentially.
that makes perfect sense. Like, whenever in the dark old days, whenever I used to be a social worker going through this, at the start I started working with young people. And, trying to get like the transitionary period, getting into adulthood, getting jobs, applying for uni courses and stuff like that. And I would have always have said I'm a decent writer, but CVs are a different ballgame because after a few CVs, I was left with a really horrible decision. I mean, what do I do here? Do I throw the child out the window or throw myself out? Because I couldn't really get it. I couldn't crack it. So, I mean, what are I suppose, the key pillars, a sexy business term, the key pillars of writing a good CV?
I think the important thing is to have a simple layout. Assuming you're applying in the UK or US, like that's what generally where my advice comes from. Because obviously other countries have different expectations, but assuming we're talking about one of those few countries, keep it simple. You don't need a photo, you don't need your full address, you don't need loads of personal details, don't need dates of birth, all that crap. But keep the layout really simple. So it's not full of crazy colors. You don't need images, graphics, tables, none of that. I mean, you need to bear in mind ATS, the applicant tracking system. It's best to keep it simple for that reason, but it's best for readability anyway. Like people prefer to have like a simple document to look at. If it's all singing or dancing, then they're missing the content, which should be the main point. So readability is really key. Make sure your personality is on there as well, which I think people are starting to get gradually. I've been kind of a big promoter of that, of you know, just putting yourself on paper can be really difficult for people. But I think if you can achieve that, it's really important. You're much more likely to get a job that matches you as a person rather than, for example, if you're quite an informal, laid back, like fun kind of guy, and then but you're very formal on your CV. And so then you get a job in a very corporate, very formal kind of environment. And then you're not going to like it. And they're not going to it's not the real you, is it? Etc. Whereas if you come across a bit more laid back on your CV, as you really are, and then you end up working, probably in a better environment that will suit you a bit more. Because obviously there's loads of different types of working environment. You can still be in really well paid corporate job, but it's, a bit more of a gym shark type like environment or whatever. I just think it's really important for people to understand what they need and want out of a job and then get that across. And don't hide who you are on CV. I mean, it ties in with the neurodiversity stuff because people, I mean, you don't necessarily have to come out on your CV saying you're autistic or whatever, but you're more likely to be slightly less field or whatever and think maybe in a different way and stuff. And that's a thing to be proud of. Like, you don't necessarily have to shout that you're autistic or got ADHD, but you can certainly shout about, having different thinking patterns and the way you come across, and you just use interesting adjectives and stuff. I hate CVs that are just a bunch of generic, like cliche phrases all in a row. It's just so dull, and predictable. And you want to stand out as you.
Like things like great interpersonal skills. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
Exactly. It just means nothing. And without any context as well, it's just meaningless. Like, I'm really good at communication in writing and in person. Okay, but give us some ideas of what that means. Like, have you presented to people? Like, do you write reports? Who for? Like, there's just give some more information there. Give some context to everything you're saying.
I'll give you an example of an interview I did, right? And I like this was for one of the NTI elves who shall not be named, and it was all down to personality, right? And it was a typical cliche interview question, but it's interesting to hear what people say. Where I asked, is there anything in a work environment that you really struggle with? And I'll not give it away, so I'll say they said, I find it difficult not to simultaneously burst into song. And I thought, that's brilliant. That's the best answer that I've ever got, and they're still here. And and it does happen. So sometimes the hills can be alive with the sound of music in here at various different points. And it was like it was brilliant. It was a personality. I was like, you'll fit in here. You will fit in with us, which is absolutely great. So back to being autistic AF, right? An autistic AF mother with ADHD. So what was your kind of neuro journey? I'm going to coin that term. Can I coin it?
Oh
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah, coin it. I like it. Let's have a neuro
Your,
journey. Yeah.
so what was your
Well,
neuro journey?
it's I haven't known for long, to be honest, Jude. Last year I guess we were still in a lockdown type situation, beginning of last year, weren't we? It just
Yeah.
seems ridiculous to talk about that, really, but it's like another world away. But my daughter got flagged by GP as potentially have being autistic, and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is ridiculous." Like, I just didn't. It did not gel with me at all. I was like, "This is not. This GP's lost the plot." Um, because she was didn't want to look him in the eye and didn't want to talk to this GP about something. And I said, that's just normal. Like, why would you wouldn't want to talk to a GP? You're anxious about like the medical issue. You don't want to look someone in the eyes, you don't know them, they're a stranger or whatever. But this all seemed completely normal behavior to me. I was like, I don't understand why this is anything to do with autism. What are you talking about? So anyway, when I kind of thought about it, spoke to some other people, started to properly notice some of her behavior at home, because obviously we were at lockdown, we were at home a lot, etc. I suddenly started to think, actually, maybe they've got a point. Like maybe something is going on here. And anyway, long story short, I paid for her to be private diagnosed because the NHS is a joke. And she was diagnosed with autism, which was obviously quite difficult to get my head around because I just had never considered it. She's 9 now. She was 7 then, but it had never considered it. It hadn't grown up, thinking there was anything different about her at all. I just thought she's just like me. And therein is the crux of it, really, because she is just like me. And that made me start to think, oh, hang on. So if we're very similar, maybe I'm autistic. Because actually, loads of my friends, or I get on really well with some really autistic people. And I've just thought, oh, well, I'm just, really, I've got a natural affinity to, neurodiverse people. That's, go me. That's great. You suddenly look around at some of your closest friends that some people don't get on with very easily, who are quite blunt or whatever. I think, oh, I love those type of people. Oh, shit. Suddenly the penny started dropping and I started thinking, oh my God, like maybe I'm autistic. So I went down this a private route as well, and got diagnosed myself with autism and ADHD. And I was kind of surprised by the ADHD stuff, because for me, I've always had in my head, I mean, I was surprised by the autism. By that point, I'd kind of got my head around it, but ADHD came out the blue. And I've always had in my head, it's like, the disrupted child at school that didn't concentrate, that was, messing around, did badly, whatever. Whereas I was very academic, never put a foot wrong at school, got straight A's. I didn't fit in with any of that kind of cliched ADHD thing. But actually, when you look at it, especially in women, we tend to mask very highly, and often can be quite academic and perfect at school, because that's actually one of the kind of markers for, especially for autism, is in girls, because we mask so heavily that we're perfect at school, and actually getting nothing wrong is a red flag in itself. But yeah, so the ADHD stuff really blew me away, because I was like, oh crap, like no wonder I'm always procrastinating. It takes me ages to focus on things. I find it really difficult to manage my time. I'm always like running late for stuff. I try and pack too many things into a day and then get really stressed out. Like I've done it today. I'm recording this with you. I've booked myself blood donation later at lunchtime. And then I thought
Very
my dad
nice.
was picking up the kids, but it turns out he's not. So I'm going to have to like try and eat and then go and pick up the kids. And then I've got a call back at the office later. It's just classic me. Like I always try and cram too many things in and plan my time really badly. Just make it, just get deadlines and stuff. But yeah, so it's been the life. So I've known for about it must be 10 months or so. So I'm still kind of getting my head around it, because it does make you look back at everything in your life and go, oh crap, okay. That's why I struggled in that situation, or that's why I struggled as a child and was kind of labeled shy or moody or whatever.
And a big warm welcome to the club, because it's because one thing, and I always highlight it, is that, I mean, if you're not a white middle class boy like Jude Morrow, you're not going to be diagnosed as a child, by and large. Where that's what seems to happen. And an interesting point, right? Because like whenever I came to terms with being autistic, being proud of it and everything else, where a lot of the things I believed about myself like 5 or 6 years ago are just sort of dissipated. Where one of the things that comes out as to why women and girls aren't diagnosed quickly is because, the idea of they mask better. Now, it's almost as if it's like, oh, those shifty, snarling women and girls, oh, they just mask. They do it intentionally. Those deceptive things, and to me, saying autistic women and girls are better maskers If that's not victim blaming, I don't know what is. It's medical professionals and diagnostic clinicians and teachers who are ignorant. It's not your fault because you're an inverted commas a masker. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, it's exhausting. Like masking is exhausting. And I see it in my daughter and my son, because he's also autistic. Because he got diagnosed a few months ago, although his is a working diagnosis because he's only 6. They weren't 100% sure, so they'll reassess him next year. But I see it with them because they're so good at school because they work so hard on masking and fitting in and doing everything they should be done that when they get home, obviously they stop masking and they're just totally wiped out and worn out. And then that's like when they just scream or something because they can't, they just can't cope because they've just run out. They've run out of energy and spoons to deal with it all. And I see it myself. And to be honest, in the last kind of few months, I've masked a lot less around friends and stuff and family, where I feel more relaxed to be myself. And I've actually lost some friends because of it. Because obviously, some of them are just like, "Wow, I don't know." No one's directly said anything, but some people have kind of like, it's just not worked out with some people. And I do think that's just where I've obviously didn't realize before, but I was obviously having to make certain level of change or effort in my behavior to be around those people. And where I've stopped doing that, suddenly we don't actually get on so well anymore. It's just like they don't like it because they can't handle what I'm actually like. And I found that quite difficult actually. And I've kind of been like, oh God, it's me. What's wrong with me? Like, why am I, it must be because I'm a mean person or whatever. And I'm not, because actually the people who love me are like, no, you're a great person. What are you talking about? Like those people just don't get you and they're not your people. And that's
You
okay
find your
because
people now.
actually, yeah. And life's a lot easier when you're surrounded by people that actually do get you and think you're great.
Yeah,
Why surround yourself with people that find you hard work or whatever? It's like, you don't, life's too short for that, to be honest.
of course it is. And I want to get into ice cream a bit. Is you say you're an ice cream addict? Now, is there right? Because we had this debate yesterday, and we need you to settle it. Basically,
Oh,
the,
God.
the office debate yesterday was: is there such thing as a bad ice cream flavor?
Oh, God. Yeah, there's loads of bad ice cream flavors. Are you kidding? I'm autistic. I'm like the most picky person with flavors ever. I'm
What's your flavor?
I'm a big fan of a really good vanilla, if I'm honest. Like, I
Me too.
really think a good vanilla is hard to beat. I do like chocolate if it's like a really nice, luxurious one, not like a cheap, crappy supermarket one. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't even bother with that. Um, but I am quite picky. Like, there's loads of flavors I hate. People, whenever I put a post on LinkedIn about this, people start rambling on about bloody rum and raisin, which frankly is the worst flavor of all time. Like, it's disgusting. It's absolutely vile. Like I hate raisins. Like they're evil. It's like rabbit poo or whatever. And then rum. Like I like rum to drink, but not in a ice cream. I mean, come on. Like what are you doing? So yeah, anything like that I don't like. I don't like nuts and things either. So I never sprinkle nuts on my ice cream. I think nuts
There's
by
a
themselves, yes, but don't put nuts with anything else. Thank you very much.
there's a gin and tonic flavor in the ice cream shop down the road from here, and I was like, meh, because a
No,
couple said there's no such thing as a bad ice cream flavor. It's the sensation of the ice cream itself,
no, that's
where
bullshit.
I was like, no. So, to those that said there is no such thing as bad ice cream in here, you're wrong.
Yeah,
That's it.
totally
It's
wrong.
it's
We call
it's
bullshit on
settled
that, I'm
now.
afraid.
Yeah. What's your position on sorbet?
I'm not a fan, to be honest. I feel like it's a poor man's ice cream, and
I like sorbet, right? Where people think it's very posh. Oh, Jude, excuse us, darling, you and your fucking coconut sorbet.
you're
But
doing
it's
it to
no,
cleanse your palate. That's the question.
it does cleanse the palate because if you have coffee and cake and pizza and ice cream and all like these things, a nice coconut sorbet does cleanse the palate. It does work. Uh, I mean, hopefully one day you'll convert to sorbet. Like it might be a long road, but hopefully you get there someday. We just needed to. to settle that debate because it came up with the ice cream emoji, and that's how it came about. Because I said there's plenty of bad ice cream flavors. I'm not a fan of mint chocolate chip. Just brush your fucking teeth. Or you, why did you not just get like use Listerine or something like that? Another one is bubble gum. No,
Oh
it's
no,
just no. It's
no.
blue in color for a start, and it tastes like bubble gum. Absolutely not. So yeah, just to the people who I know that this is directed at, which is about three of you. Yeah, you know what? You're perfectly entitled to your wrong opinion. So we just thought we'd put that to bed just for you. So, oh yeah, so time for pole now. Time for pole dancing.
Yeah,
Do
pole's
do
amazing.
like how did you get into that?
So I started pole when I turned 40, because I'm actually going to be 45 in October.
No way.
Um, yeah, it's frightening. I don't feel it, but I don't really look it, I don't think. But yeah, I started when I was 40 because my friend had been doing pole a couple of years, and she kept saying you must try it, and she booked a pole party for my 40th as a surprise. And so you get to kind of try it and stuff. And it was so much fun, and I wasn't very good at it, but there was something about it. I thought this is a really fun thing to try, and I needed a new thing. I get really bored by the gym. So me and my other friend were supposed to be starting together and doing beginners classes. She bailed and basically bottled it at the last minute, and so I had to go by myself. And I thought, oh God, like to a room full of people I don't know wearing shorts. Oh, this is a nightmare. But for something about it, just kept me going back, and I started that first week, and I just kept going back every week. So I've been doing it nearly 5 years, so I'm quite good now. Um, I've done a show of solo in a show that we did, and I've done like three pole photo shoots, and I also do aerial hoop, which is like when there's a hoop hanging down, which I love as well, and aerial hammock, which is where there's like a hammock thing, and we do aerial yoga in the hammock as well. So I've done like a few of the different variations of aerial stuff, but it's pole's still my absolute favorite, and you get amazing muscles, like it's amazing for your body. And it's just so empowering, the whole thing. We have this kind of running joke when you first start pole, people come in kind of like longer sort of shorts, um, longer, maybe baggier shorts or whatever. And then actually, as you do more moves, you have to have less clothing on, like literally, because you need to be able to use like your skin to stick to the pole and stuff. That's what your grip points are. So you have to like your shorts get gradually shorter. And then by the time you get to having done it a few years, we're wearing like the skimpiest outfits and stuff. It's really funny. You can tell by like how long someone's been doing it by like the clothing they're wearing, basically.
Is there, whenever you said about the aerial hammock, thought just popped into my head do you remember like on BBC Two, in between the programs, there was
Oh
like
yeah.
one where people were unfurling down off a big
Oh
ribbony
yeah, so
looking
that's
thing?
silks. That's called silks. So that's related to all of that as well. I've never tried silks, because we don't have a tall enough studio to have them in our studio. There are other studios I could go to, but I'm a little bit scared of heights. So I would like to try silks one day because it's very similar to hammock. It's just not joined in the middle, like it's two long strips hanging down. But yeah, you're right. It's related to the same stuff. It's like in the same family, if you like, of aerial things, because quite a
It's
few of the girls do well, and boys do silks. But yeah, it's quite hard because obviously you have to do it exactly right, and when you're unfurling, you need to know what you're doing, otherwise you're going to end up on the floor on your head or whatever.
it's funny just that whenever you said that, it just sort of triggered
Yeah,
that sort
yeah,
of nostalgic memory of the
yeah. I
people.
remember the exact thing you're talking about as well because I remember seeing it.
Yeah, it's strange that it's just the nostalgia factor. But I suppose my kind of, well, my second to final question is, I mean, we're coming up to the end of 2022 now. What's the plans for 2023? Are you going to kick arse all over the world with CVs?
I am. One of my big things I want to do is get my like CV course and book into like universities and stuff because I think people are really struggling to write CVs when they finish uni or finish school because the help you get is just shit. In the the best will in the world, a lot of the career advisors that work in universities and stuff haven't actually written CVs to get jobs, anytime recently. Do you know what I mean? They've got out of date information, or they're just not got their finger on the pulse. And so I think a lot of those people could be helped a lot. So that's something I'm kind of going to try and push into a little bit. And also I'm planning to write another book. I've planned out, but I need to put some time aside next year to actually write, because I want to write about life growing up as an autistic woman, which will be weird in that obviously when I was growing up I didn't know I was autistic, but now I can see it through that lens. I can see how a lot of the things were like, you know, very like different to other people's experiences because of that. But I also think it's quite relatable to a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of women who obviously are autistic or have ADHD and don't necessarily have a diagnosis, or are only just realizing it. Now we're all talking about it a lot more. People are like, oh, okay, yeah, that's very similar to me actually. Because I get asked about it all the time. And I think it's a little bit selfish that it'll be for me as well, a little bit like it'll be a bit of a therapy going through some of the stuff and talking about it. Um,
Yeah, and that's what my first book, Why Does Daddy Always Look So Sad, was. That's exactly what it was. I wrote it for me. I was in a good job. I was in a good place. I had my own house. I had my own money. And I think I wrote that for me, and that's why it got to the level that it did, because people related to it. And I think that's a brilliant strategy, and self-publish it as well. So
yeah, yeah.
and it worked for me. Like even it's my new book, pluggy, pluggy, plug, 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 plug. The Ghosts of Riots Past. It was just a passion project that I did. It was something I was interested in. I wanted to learn about it. I dived into it, heart and soul, hook, line, and sinker. Self-published it, and it's out there now. Where I think that's the true way to write, because you know, whenever you're kind of writing commercially, it gets to a level where you're thinking, is this for me? Where I suppose it was a bit of a challenge that I had. And very, very finally, where can everybody get you? Your
Um,
sites, socials, plugs.
well, yeah, my website, my actual business name is Pay for Precision, because that's what it was when I started as a proofreader, but it still works now. And obviously, Pay is my surname, so I married into a good name. So
Yes, you did.
payforprecision.com is my website, where obviously you can access all my services and stuff. Um, and if you want to find me on LinkedIn, obviously just look for Rebecca Pay and the little ice cream emoji, and you'll find me.
And that is absolutely fantastic. I can't thank you enough for being here. I really, really can't. I really, really enjoyed this. It was absolutely brilliant. I'd urge everybody to connect for all things CV. That's Pay for Precision. And once again, thank you everybody for listening in. Come and join us again next week for another edition of the Neurodiversity Gold Podcast.